Welcome to Pixelated Realms, your guide through the digital landscape, untangling the mysteries of your favorite titles and discussing the latest and greatest in video game fun. I'm your host, Alex Salerno, and alongside me is my brother, Tyler.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back.
How's it going?
It's going well. If you're following along live, we had Thanksgiving last week. Man, was it last week already? Time flies.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, but it's been a good time to do some gaming, and we have some really cool things to talk about. I'm really excited and ready to dive in on some gaming topics. How about yourself? What have you been up to?
I'm good. Same. Obviously, I was also at Thanksgiving and then Naomi's birthday at the zoo. So very busy these last week or so.
The whole Pixelated Realms team was there, so yeah, it was great.
All in person.
Yeah.
Exactly. So we're going to talk a little bit today about the Fallout trailer, some new content patches, new WoW season, and new Destiny season. So a lot to talk about. Also, something new, so a little housekeeping. If you want to ask us a question or leave a comment, you can now go to pixelatedrealms.org/ask. That's ASK. Leave us a comment, and we'll talk about it at the end of the show. That way, so we can get questions live. We can answer them as we're going along.
Yeah, solid idea. I think that's a great idea. But yeah, diving right in. Fallout trailer. That was a big drop this week. I just watched it myself for the first time. I was kind of holding out a little bit, but wow. It looks pretty spot on to me, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think it looked surprisingly good. I had my bar pretty low though, if not through the floor for this, because like video games, with very few exceptions, have not had a good track record for neither film or TV.
I mean that's fair, right? I mean you're bound to enjoy it more if you keep your bar low. I mean that teaser, it was a pretty long teaser. I mean a lot of teasers can be a little bit more brief. I don't know. I thought it looked really good. It was a little like, so while I was watching it, I was thinking like the color grading was pretty like saturated, so like there were very dark blues and very like dark yellows, and maybe that's like an artistic choice they just decided to go with to like create contrast between like the faux world they're living underground and the craziness outside. But we saw a lot of things in that trailer that show like what, maybe I'm incorrect here, but it looks like they're just going like straight Fallout 3 because it's Vault 33, right?
I don't think so. I think it takes place in Los Angeles.
What's the vault in Fallout 3?
I don't remember the actual number.
I can't remember either.
It takes place in Washington, D.C., I think.
Really? Okay. Yeah. No. Oh, you mean Fallout 3 does?
Fallout 3 does, the game. Yeah. So the show takes place in L.A.
The show takes place in LA. Okay. Well, we saw a lot of like familiar looking things. Like that town looked a lot like Nuketown. The guy without the nose, like, isn't that a character we've been introduced to at some point?
Well, he's just a ghoul.
He's just any old ghoul. He's not any particular ghoul. Well, either way, it a lot of that was familiar enough to like feel like we're definitely in that Fallout universe. I'm interested to see what they do. Amazon has had some great shows that came out. I'm a huge fan of The Boys. I know they're the same studio. So yeah, I mean, if you think about it, that's a great choice, right? Like The Boys has this kind of like realism, but like also kind of gory, and I think that'll fit Fallout really well.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see where they take it, because the whole thing with Fallout, is it's like kind of goofy, but also really morbid because everyone's like living in hell.
Right,
basically.
It has this like gildedness to it. It's like on the outside, it's all supposed to be like really pleasant, happy. These '50s tunes that are like kind of like overly joyful. Yeah, and then like underneath, it's super rotten. Yeah, I mean, I'm a huge fan of the Fallout series. I know you're a huge fan of the Fallout series, so that's definitely something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I'm definitely more interested in it now after having seen that. Like, they did a lot of, I think the trailer was very surgical. They showed a lot of things from the video game to show like, hey, I know you were wondering whether or not this was going to be like true to the game,
Yeah.
and here's proof that it all is.
I
Like
agree.
like you were like talking about like the color scheme, right? That's always been kind of a a thing in the game where it's like everything is kind of dulled,
Yeah.
except for the bright blue jumpsuit, right?
Hmm.
And they showed the armor, the power armor. They showed dog meat, even in a way. They
Well, yeah, and
showed,
dog meat, like those are all the things. Like it was just all these little bits and pieces. Like you said, like you can't. Maybe I'm just trying not to blame myself for being so confused. But right, like there was so many different elements from all the games. It kind of felt like you were,
yeah,
looking at a recreation. But yeah, I mean, it looks really fun. Although this is a video gaming channel, we also love film and love to talk about film. So we'll find some space to talk about these video game films that come out because they're just so much fun.
yeah, and they're getting better,
Yes, they
surprisingly.
are.
I
Yes, they
mean,
are.
a a long time ago, we had the best we had was like the Resident Evil movies, which are awful.
Super
And
Mario Brothers 1993
oh yeah,
or
classic.
whatever the
I
hell.
have a lot of good memories of that movie, but it is
Uh,
pretty bad. But
I
now we have like The Last of Us and stuff, which are amazing.
It was unique. I mean, I don't know. I don't know why we had that movie. I mean, I do remember watching it though.
I don't know. And like the liberties they took on it, like the like goo everywhere is like the king, and they
It
like real Yoshi.
Nothing made sense. I mean,
No.
it was just such a creative liberty of like the late 90s. I don't even know. I don't
Yeah.
even know what to say.
That's a classic. But we've gone from there now to this, which is like one for one recreations.
Yeah,
And
with
it
Chris
looks
Pratt.
like they had a little bit of comedy in there, which is nice, like a little lightheartedness, which is that kind of like, hey, even though we're all dying, let's just pretend everything is great,
Yeah.
And Walton Coggins as the ghoul. I don't know if you know who that is, but he's the guy.
Hmm.
Let me think. Hateful Eight. He's the sheriff. Like,
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
yeah. So I'm really excited to see him in that. I like him as an actor. So
Yeah.
I
I'm
think he's
trying to
also
think of other things he's in.
he was the bad guy in one of the Ant-Man movies.
Yep, you're right. He's the business guy who's trying to
Mm-hmm.
buy like that piece of technology. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. So it's really cool to see him in there and with like his ghoul face.
Yeah, it looked great. I mean, yeah. So that's exciting. I'm excited for that. Um,
Yeah, and I think Bethesda kind of needs a little bit of a win right now. Not that Starfield wasn't successful, but I don't think it was as successful as they wanted it to be.
Certainly not. No. It's been off to a rocky start, but historically, it just seems like these big AAA RPGs all get off to a rocky start in the last few years. Like
Yeah.
it's just been turbulent for the big, massive RPG games, kind of genre lately. But I,
Mm-hmm.
do we have any updates on Starfield? Like, have they been patching it? Like,
That I'm not 100% on. I know that they've been
yeah,
really active in their community, asking questions,
yeah,
and talking about that they want to patch things based off of community feedback as opposed to like kind of just whatever they want. So I think they are open to that feedback and updating the game as they go along, because I'm sure they
yeah.
want it to become
I mean, I'll
what everybody
probably
wants.
play it. It's one of those games where I'm going to pick back up in a year or two and put in
Mm-hmm.
like 100 hours. You know what I mean? Like,
Exactly.
I'm confident. I mean, I did that with Cyberpunk. Like, I ended up waiting about a year and I'm glad I did.
Yeah.
Which is which is interesting because that's going to be a topic of conversation today. They're adding a kind of end cap surprise patch to Cyberpunk 2077. I think maybe we'll get back into that a little bit later, as well as some of the new items that are being added and patched into
Mm-hmm.
Baldur's Gate 3. So I think that's great. But in the meantime, could we take a second here and talk about this new and exciting MMO news that we have WoW Season of Discovery having just come out on Thursday. I don't think you've had a chance to play it yet, but I have.
No.
Okay, great. So I'm our resident WoW expert in this particular subject. So all my WoW friends out there, I hope you guys are enjoying yourselves and having fun. For anyone who's not aware, Season of Discovery is a take on the World of Warcraft classic experience, but it's more all about like kind of fiddling with the mechanics of the classic WoW engine and the meta that we all know so well as a classic WoW player. Um, and it's just such a smart and a great idea, right? It's a very small team of people that make up this classic WoW team in Blizzard. Last time, I mean, I want to say it was like 3 or 4 people. It's a very, very small team, but giving them the power to, these people are experts in classic WoW, and if you've never played classic WoW or any World of Warcraft, it's a very heavily how do I put this? Experimented and you know tried and tested game. People are very, very smart, and they run the numbers on everything. There's a very defined meta usually when it comes to this game, and especially when it comes to older games, right? Because you have the time to explore it.
Mm-hmm.
So Season of Discovery is introducing this system called runes, and basically these runes are passive and active powers that change the classes at their very foundations, and that's really exciting because, like I said, we understand this game so well. It's kind of just like, yeah, this is the best thing, so you should do it. But now that mixes everything up, and we're gonna all these players who spent thousands of hours learning the system now have to think on their heads again, think on their toes again, and experience the game as anew. um the reasons this is smart is because it's, as far as like development goes, it's fairly mild on their end. Like, they're not
Mm-hmm.
creating whole new zones yet. They're really just modifying existing assets to add a different element. um but with that being said, like, they can kind of like take this idea and like kind of make it a proof of concept. So like, if they can, show the company that this is something that people are interested in, then they're just going to get more backing and more people to
Mm-hmm.
further develop it. Yeah. So,
Sorry, excuse me.
no.
So what are the runes? Like, what do they do?
Yeah. So I've been playing Hunter. I'm a tried and true Hunter player myself. I started out, and the leveling zone's very familiar, right? You just kind of go through the motions once you've done it a million times. But then suddenly, item drops, and it says, go, into this cave, and give this to a certain NPC. You kill the NPC, and then he drops a rune. You activate the rune, and suddenly I have a new power. So, for example, one of them was explosive shot for hunters, which is really powerful right now. And now I have this entire new power that completely changes the way I think about the game.
Hmm.
Another one of them that was like fundamentally changing is Chimera Sting, and depending on when I place it on the enemy, if they have my I'm sorry, Chimera Shot, not Chimera Sting. But basically, if I have a Sting, which is like a form of poison on for the Hunter class, it has different effects. So we can now like disarm or get mana back or deal additional damage based on what we use and what order we follow them in. So it's like I said, it was something. It's so firmly established how we should play this game. Adding in these little, what seem like little changes have a cascading effect, and will create new metas and basically just get everyone's brains working on how what's the next best optimized version of
Right.
this class. Yeah.
Changing up the skill tree so like the same old stuff doesn't work anymore.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. I mean, we're getting things like warlock tanks. We're getting like huge mix-ups. Shaman tanks, mages are gonna have healing abilities. So it's just going to, that's called Season of Discovery for a reason. We're just gonna have to
Mm-hmm.
discover it as a community. A couple other interesting things are that it's going to start with a lower level cap, so you can only get to level 25 to start, and they're going to slowly increase that as it goes, introducing new content. So it's kind of also discouraging this, like, oh, just rush to the end and like, kind of play the end game. They want you to take it slow. They want
Mm-hmm.
us to take time and like see how things work out. And I think it sounds like they're going to tune it as they go, and we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Cool. So do the runes like go away at the end of the season?
No, you actually bind them to pieces of equipment. So
Oh.
so I mean, they might. I don't know if they're going to reset. I don't know what defines a season in this case, because that's right in WoW. There you have patches, which you could consider like seasons, but
Mm-hmm.
um, we don't necessarily know what that means yet. We don't know if that means there's going to be resets or something of that nature. But yeah, I assume they're going to tune them, and they're going to introduce more and develop them. But yeah, they basically bind your piece of equipment, and then you have that power.
I see. So you'd have to like rebind it with a new rune if you wanted to, like, if you ran out of space or something like on your equipment.
So it sounds, I'm getting the idea that like you're going to have different sets of equipment with different runes bound
I see.
to account for different scenarios, right? That's kind of where I think
Mm-hmm.
that's going. I might be wrong. It might just be like open up the inventory, rebind your rune, and call it a day on the same piece of equipment. But yeah, we're just gonna have to see. I want to, for me, I'm just gonna be taking it slow. I'm not too hardcore, but I would love to experience this new content that they have released and the new characters and have fun because it's just a very fun game.
Right.
And hopefully we'll have some guests later on that will might be experts in that particular game, and we'll talk about this more in depth a little bit
That's some
later down the road.
foreshadowing there.
Maybe.
Um, so at what point does WoW Classic just like split off from retail and become like Retail 2?
Well, I mean, they're literally announced Kata Classic, so like they're like getting there. It's like
Right.
I don't know. It's such a confusing topic to me. I'm like, are they going to stop at Kata? Are they going to keep going? Like, what is the
Like play every single past expansion. And
right?
it's
But then
like,
the game's already readapted, so you can kind of do that. So when do they decide that their current adaptation's good enough and stop doing classic experience? I don't know. I don't have the answer.
the answer is they're doing it for the money.
Of course.
And if
Of
people
course.
are going to pay for it, they're going to create it.
Yeah. The true answer, the one
I know.
answer.
Will people pay for this? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the like Marvel multiverse at this point. It's like which universe are you in WoW? Are you in the classic, or are
Now
you
there's
in the
like
Cataclysm
there's
classic?
hardcore classic, there's regular classic, there's Lich King classic, there's
Mhm.
there's just so much going on. It's funny. I do find it funny though that how like some of the best games made nowadays are games that were made 20 years ago. It's just
I know.
like I'm not saying there's not some amazing titles coming out. There is, but it's funny how some just stick, so well.
I know. You always find yourself going back to like these same games over and over and over again. And you're like, this game's like 15 years old. I'm still like playing this over anything new.
It's kind of amazing.
Yeah.
But speaking of newer games, I wanted to revisit the topic of Alan Wake 2 a little bit. It was a hit for the Game Awards, clearly from our discussions previously.
Mhm.
It's nominated for just about everything.
Mhm.
I've now had a chance to play it a little bit. I have some thoughts. I know you've been playing it. I gotta say, it's a pretty incredible artistic like piece of work. Like it's a really wonderful narrative, and like although I have no idea what's going on, honestly, I'm like still like enjoying it.
Mhm.
But like as a video game, I also find it to be like, how do I put this? Like there's some things to me that like I spend extra time doing that I feel like I shouldn't. Like I'm like scouring every corner of the map to make sure I've gotten every clue, but I like kind of tell myself like just don't do this. Like just keep pushing the story forward and like don't worry about like every little thing in this game because it's such a cool narrative. Like if you spend too much time like like just wandering around these dark places, I don't know, I think there's like a certain element of like you just gotta like step back and be like, yes, you're playing a video game, but really you're experiencing this story.
Yeah, the story, once you wrap your head around it, is so good and enticing. It is a little difficult in the first half of the game because they purposely leave everything kind of mysterious. And as the game progresses, they answer a lot more of the questions. Even though, I mean, it's a very fantastic game, meaning like, it's like fantasy kind of style. So like there's a lot of weird things that they kind of just explain away as like magic. Like this is just kind of how things work. And at a certain level, you have to do that because there's, you can't explain away everything.
Yeah.
But the game is super fun. And I agree with you where it's like that it's a game that wants you to continuously push the narrative, and it does kind of get dull if you are just like trying to explore everything.
Yeah.
And it's something that I'll tell you. I recently beat it, so
Okay.
it will try to take you almost everywhere on the map.
Yeah.
And the few areas that it doesn't take you, they'll give you opportunities where you kind of are like
Mm,
walk past it through in the narrative that are like obvious, like, hey, this is an opportunity for you to go here.
yeah.
So yeah, don't waste too much time trying to discover like secrets, at least in your first
Hmm.
run through, right? You should try and enjoy the story as much as possible, because the story is so immersive and it's so engaging that if you break away from it,
Yeah.
it can kind of feel like a lull.
I mean, like I think the game is like so mysterious, and like the tone is so well like established, like it kind of suggests you should keep doing that, but like there's that video gamer in me that's like,
Mhm.
plays RPGs and Final
Collect
Fantasy.
every
Yeah,
item,
yeah,
find
go
every
around it.
container.
Oh, you want me to go left? Okay, I'm gonna go right and figure out
Hmm.
why you don't want me to go right. So
Yeah.
it's just like I got to get out of the RPG mindset a little bit when I play that one. But it's just maybe like the coolest detective game ever.
Hmm.
It's been really great. Like it's been nominated for it. Like the music was amazing. The like acting has been incredible.
Have you gotten to the parts where they do the real movies, the like
I
real life actors?
Oh, I mean, yeah, I've definitely seen a whole bunch of that. Yeah.
Hmm.
Like I'm playing as Alan Wake right now.
Okay.
And like it's very well integrated. Like I'm very impressed with the overall like flow of the game and the
Hmm.
artistic style of it. Yeah, I want to finish it. It's just it's a tough game for me because like I have to like sit there and just like dive into the narrative. I can't like think
Yeah.
about like the weapon upgrades. Like there's like these weapon upgrades, and I'm like I don't care.
It-
Just like
no.
automatically do it for me in this type of environment.
The weapon upgrades don't matter. You could not use them at all
Yeah.
and be totally fine. I've never had a problem with like the fighting or any of that,
Hmm.
and
Well,
I
okay.
barely
Here's
used
here's my one
upgrades.
mechanical question: is sometimes the shadow dudes attack me and sometimes they don't. Is there any way I can tell the difference?
Okay, so the way that I try and determine whether or not they're dangerous or not is, one, if you flash your flashlight at them and
Yeah.
they're see-through,
Yeah.
they're probably not a threat. If they're
Oh, pro tip.
completely like dark,
Yeah.
then they might be a threat. And
Because
then you
I
laser
like
beam them.
burn all my flashlight charges and I'm like, ah, crap, and then someone attacks me randomly.
Yeah, a lot of them are just nuisances. Also,
Yeah.
listen to the music. If the music all of a sudden starts getting, intense, you're like,
Yeah.
okay, somebody's hunting me down right now. And just look around for the one who's like walking straight at you.
That's
They're
too
like,
funny.
it's like, I'm coming for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, cool. I'll have to continue it. Like, that's a really fun one. Highly recommend it. I'm playing on the Epic Games Store, but also a great
Hmm.
pickup for the PlayStation. Yeah.
Have you gotten to the musical part?
Like, I don't think the band's been introduced yet. No.
No. You would know. You would
Oh,
know if
yeah.
this
No,
happened.
I haven't then.
Yeah. So I'm assuming you met Mr. Door.
Yep, I'm walking around I'm like exchanging like light beams right now and walking around the like subways and
Hmm.
stuff. Like the Colts has like a little like murder set up there. Yeah. So I'm
Yeah,
just
and
like
you you
investigating.
change the scenes. I like that
Yeah.
part. There's like a mechanic where you have to like, as you uncover parts of the story, you can change a room's narrative. So like be like, oh, the narrative in this room right now is a murder investigation or something, and then it'll be like, oh, you unlocked a new narrative, and it'll be like, okay, cult of the tree,
Yeah.
Whatever, and you can change it, and it changes the room completely.
And that's what the character Alan Wake is always saying, like, I need to write my way through this, like a
Hmm.
deeper. And it's like, it's really confusing. It's one of those things where I'm like, I don't quite get it, but I also like it makes sense. It's like walking the line between like, okay, I kind of follow, but I also have no idea what's going on. Like,
Yeah, I mean it's purposely vague and
right,
mysterious,
right, right.
right?
That's what I
But
mean.
like the gist of it is like he's in this place called the Dark Place, and it's like this like dream world, and there's this entity or multiple entities there, but there's one in particular that's trying to escape the Dark
Hmm.
Place. And in the dark place, creativity molds the reality.
Mm.
So any creative thing, so writing, music, movies, any of that will alter reality based off of the person creating that writing.
Mm.
So when he's saying like I'm trying to write my way out, he's
Yeah.
trying to create a narrative that will change the reality of the dark place to let him out.
Wow. Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, so like basically the rules in that universe are different. And so he's trying to figure out how it works.
Wow.
And he basically spends the entire game, well, even 2 games at this point, trying to figure that out. Because
Mm.
he's kind of trying to figure that out in the first game too, though he's not trapped in the dark place in the first one.
It's a little like a little like Donnie Darko, kind of
Yeah.
like vibe to it. Like
Totally, where like
Yeah.
you're more confused at the end than at the beginning, but you're
Yeah.
kind of like, I at least have a few pieces of new information.
kind of cobbling it together, but it's also one of those things that thrives on being vague, right? Like it's kind of like, if it was too specific, then it wouldn't be interesting, right?
Yeah, exactly. Also, it would make no sense because
Yeah.
if you're trying to ground something that's like in reality, if you're trying to ground
Ungroundable.
this story in reality that is completely different, like you're gonna fail. Be like it's literally magic, or
Yeah.
whatever. It's supposed to be unexplainable. It just is.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to finish that one. I'm slowly but surely working on it. It's been interesting. But I think moving on to some other gaming news.
Mhm.
Did you see that Cyberpunk is getting kind of a one final last patch that looks like it's adding a few features that everyone's been asking for?
Yeah, was this a surprise? It was a surprise to me. I
I had not heard anything about this. I thought the latest patch was the last patch.
Me too. And then all of a sudden they're like, "Oh, we're gonna drop this patch that drops like all sorts of new vehicles, new systems."
There's the metro system is developed now. Did you see that?
I saw that you can take the train around.
It looks so cool, like just like you're in Edge Runners and like you're on the train and like it. So yeah. So for anyone who doesn't know, it looks like CD Projekt Red is dropping one last patch for Cyberpunk 2077 to really add some final touches before they move on to Witcher 4 and Cyberpunk 2. It looks really exciting. They're going to be adding in the metro system that was so clearly planned ahead of time. They just never had the chance to finish. They're adding in some. I'm trying to. It's like a motorcycle, or they're adding in replayable races, which is something that definitely needed to be in the game.
Yeah, like GTA
Yeah.
style races. Yeah, the metro. They did some boss tweaks.
Oh, they're doing some gang member like AI tweaks, which is really great.
Yeah, so you could basically get like the way I haven't tried it yet, but it sounds like you can kind of get like notoriety, like
Yeah.
pop stars, but with
Yeah.
gangs, and then they'll try and do like drive-bys or something.
And I know it's one of those things where like when the game was released and these things weren't there, like it's not that there's a lot of criticism, and it's like it's not that they didn't think about these things, they just didn't have time to develop it and get it released. It's like so it's almost never the people creating the game who they know what they want to add and what's cool. It's just
Yeah.
whether they're given that time and resources to actually like release that, and like the metro system, like I can see why they were like, okay guys, yeah, I'd rather we clean up other parts of the game and just leave the metro system out,
Oh,
than
yeah.
you know what I mean, than trying to rush through some incomplete piece of software that
Yeah. No,
makes
I mean
things
that
worse.
trade-off is like 90% of what I spend my time at work doing is in discussions of, hey, is this a higher priority than this?
Right.
And what should we focus on? What do we have time to do? And what like do we want like a half-assed version of this, or do we ditch it completely, or do we drop something else to do this? And that's just like the reality of software development and video games especially is, of course, in a vacuum. If you could throw a development studio into one of those Goku time capsule pods and they could work on it for 50 years and then release it within a year, like of course they would make the perfect game that they want, but they probably would never leave that pod because they'd be working on it forever until it's like, basically reality. And so it's like there's always a trade-off, and it's
I
nice
mean,
to see that they
yeah.
were able to come back to it.
Well, and that's kind of my point. Meaning, like, it fundamentally that game had everything I was looking for and more. And the fact that, like, these last little tweaks, it really shows the love and care they're putting into it. Like, I know it had a rough launch, but I'm completely turned back around on Cyberpunk. I think
Mhm.
it's such an amazing game. I think they did such an amazing job. It's, I wish they would have been given a little bit more time, just to, like, release the game, but I'm still super happy with what we got. I'm really
Yep.
excited to play the new patch. I hope they do, like, a new game plus, but I didn't hear I just saw speculation about that. It wasn't, like, anything confirmed. Um, but yeah, any excuse to go back to that game, I'm ready to go because it's just so much fun.
Yeah, a new game plus would be cool, and that would be actually a really nice little finale. Not that it needs anything extra, to be honest, but
Yeah.
it'd be like, hey, because I know they announced that they're now working on Witcher 4,
Hmm.
and that most of their studios migrated over to that, which I'm very excited about because The
Yeah.
Witcher 3 is my favorite game of all time. But like, I'm really like Cyberpunk, so it'd be really cool for them to be like, hey, we're gonna do this one last thing, unlimited
Hmm.
replayability, have fun.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's pretty complete at that point. Like, not that anything's perfect, but, like, if they add a new game plus, at least let me, like, deselect Meet Hanako at Ember's Quest, because I know I'm not the only one who that drives crazy.
Yeah.
Literally, you're just like, as soon as I get to that quest every time, I'm like, dang it, like, I shouldn't have done it, because now I just has to sit there and meet Hanako at Embers. So, yeah, I'm really glad it got to the place it is. I love that game. I can't recommend it enough. If you haven't played it
Hmm.
and you don't mind, like, a darker toned RPG, I highly, highly, highly recommend it. Um, but yeah, I can't wait to play that patch. I know that's coming out in a couple days, just 2 days, I think, the 5th.
Hmm. Oh, I thought it
And
was out already. It's not out yet.
no, it's not out yet. No, it should
Oh,
be.
okay.
I think the 5th was the release date. But speaking of RPGs and patches, I know Baldur's Gate also got a patch that had some really cool additions. Did you see anything about
No,
that?
this is news to me. So what happened?
Yeah. So, I mean, Larian, another really impressive studio. I mean, to be totally honest to our viewers here, I think Larian and CD Projekt Red are my two favorite studios. Despite,
Hmm.
any issues they've had in the past, they always pull through.
Right. I mean, because I know you've been a fan of them. Did they do Pillars?
No, Larian did Divinity,
The Divinity.
yeah,
Okay.
Divinity series, and just Divinity 2, now looking back, it's clearly, this beautiful precursor to Baldur's Gate 3,
Hmm.
but at the time, to me, that was, like, the best CRPG you could play, and I've spent a lot of time on a lot of the CRPGs, um, but Baldur's Gate 3, so I would say the most notable thing in this patch is they added, what was it, 3,500 lines of dialogue for an epilogue. So now you have a whole additional piece of content that kind of. I know there was some
Wow.
kind of complaints about, like, how the ending felt a little abrupt. Once again, clearly they had intentions to always do this. They just did not have time to pump it out, by the
Hmm.
official release. So now we get some epilogue, some interesting turns on character stories, and just a little bit of, like, an end cap for this really long narrative. I'm not done with the game yet, so I'm
Me
not gonna
neither. So
have an
I don't know
experience.
what
Yeah, I'm
happens.
not gonna experience it for a bit, but it's really cool to see, like, all of this constant, like, fixing of issues, additional content, just that support that is that high level support that can be so rare, in games
Hmm.
nowadays. I mean, it makes me kind of feel good about not having blown my way through the game because I'm like, great, like, now I have an epilogue. Like, I'm glad I didn't just beat it,
Right.
and now so I like taking my time with games like this. But it's just the ultimate D&D experience. It's just so much fun.
It is so much fun, and it'll be interesting to see if they take Game of the Year or not. I don't know if you had looked at our like Instagram comments at all. So we posted some of our reels from our last episode, and
Hmm.
I got a lot of feedback from it on our nominations for Game of the Year, and
Yeah.
it's really interesting to see what people think are going to win and what's not. So, quick,
Wow.
very 2-second recap, right? We kind of said that we think Baldur's Gate is the most likely to take it, but a lot of people were actually, and unsurprisingly so, were saying like, "Oh, Tears of the Kingdom." is going to take it.
Yeah.
We discussed why we think that's probably not going to be true, but honestly, any of them they're all great games. Like, we're not debating that they're all great games.
Wonderful, yeah.
And the other one was that a lot of people wanted Spider-Man 2 to win, which I thought was very interesting, because that game won. It's amazing, absolutely amazing. I love it. I haven't beaten it yet, but I'm still in the middle of playing through it right now.
Yeah.
But we still think Baldur's Gate was just so good. But it's interesting to see everyone's. This is one of the things that I enjoy so much about talking about video games, is that no one opinion is actually correct. And is one of the reasons why reviewing video games is so difficult, because, like, me personally, like, I didn't like Tears of the Kingdom, but that does not make it a bad game, right? That just means I didn't like that game. It just wasn't for me. I don't really love WoW. You love WoW. You don't really like Destiny. I love to hate Destiny.
You love to love and hate Destiny.
Yeah. So it's just really interesting to see where this goes. But I'm really glad that they were able to update the game. And I've restarted my character like 5 times, so I still haven't gotten past like the beginning.
Yeah, I'm still in Act 1 too. Like, I just like refuse to like. I almost feel like I should play like a one save game for the pure fact that I cannot go back on my decisions. Like,
yeah.
Oh, I fucked up. I messed up, and now I just have
hitting F5 over and over and over again.
Exactly. Where I'm like, I don't like how that turned out. Load. Like. So yeah, it's And certainly I agree with you on that point. Like, sometimes like video games just hit you in a certain time or place, or like they just have a particular appeal to you for whatever reason. I mean, Baldur's Gate 3 is a great example of that. I'm a heavily biased opinion when it comes to Baldur's Gate. I love Larian Studios, and I love the Baldur's Gate franchise. I love Dungeons & Dragons. So, it would have been really hard for me not to enjoy that game at its maximum potential. I have a higher threshold to enjoy that game than I do for Super Mario Brothers Wonders, because I really, really like that genre compared to, Mario Bros is great, but it's just not like my favorite genre of all time. So, yeah, but that's what I like. That's what taste is, right? That's why we I think it's silly to try to give an opinion and like say like, oh yeah, like this is my unbiased opinion. No, I mean, like, we're inherently biased, literally, right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah. It's a creative pursuit. Yeah. It's literally impossible to be unbiased.
Exactly. And so, like, if Spider-Man 2 is your favorite game of the year, and like you feel strongly about that, hell yeah, like you should go vote for it. Like, because that's it's super interesting to see like how different like what kind of how many people are responding at any given time to these releases and games. Like you said, like there was no bad selection this year for Game of the Year.
No, no.
They're all really good. I haven't even had a chance to play every single one of them because there's so many. Games are long nowadays, so
yeah,
maybe one day. But it's great. Everyone's really deserved. I think this was a great year for video gaming. Like we got some really great video games. I mean, Spider-Man 2, Baldur's Gate, like Breath of the Wild 2. That's what I just think of it as. Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah,
Super
Resident
Mario
Evil.
Wonder was almost like a surprise, but I haven't played it, so I shouldn't comment too much on it. But it was just a great year overall for video gaming, which is great. I think it's such a crazy time in this industry. Like, it's this weird like golden age, but also like there's some like nastiness underneath it with all the pay to wins and loot boxes and phone mobile games and things like that.
Once money gets its grips in an industry, it's hard to pull those out.
Once the investors realize they can make money, and then the non
I saw an interesting statistic, and I forgot. I don't have a citation for this, but that the gaming industry makes more money than the movie industry and the music industry combined twice over.
Yeah, no, the video game market makes more money than all other forms of entertainment combined.
That is insane. Yeah. And it's so funny if you look at like posts from like the 1980s and stuff like that. I saw something on like Instagram or something about this. I really should be writing down my
facts
more, my sources. Thank you. And but it was like, oh, video games is just a fad. This isn't going to stay around.
Just like computers. Computers are a fad. Yeah.
Right. That aged well. That aged really well.
I mean, but the thing is, a video game is the ultimate form of entertainment, and this is
Mhm.
like high level philosophy for our viewers today. Video gaming, it's like I consider film a really high level of entertainment. You have artistic,
Mhm.
you have musical, you have like cinematography, acting. Like there's so many subdivisions of like excellence that come to make a great writing or your music creation or anything like that isn't incredibly difficult. It is, but you add all those things together to make a film. Video gaming is kind of like that to the next step, right? Like
Mhm.
okay, now we need acting, screenwriting, sound, music. Like we need all these things. Now create an engine for physics. Create, like it's such a
It's insane.
There's so many avenues of creativity and artistry, right?
Mhm.
And technicality in video gaming. To me, it's the ultimate, form of media. Like
It is. It
you
really
could
is.
expend a lifetime creating a single video game because there's so
Oh,
much to do. The idea of creating a video game is daunting to me because of how many roles there are to fill and how much creative
mhm.
vision and technical expertise that you need just to make one. So it's
Yeah.
it's quite a feat.
I absolutely agree. Like every time I see a video game that is like pushing the gamut, I'm just like, this is a freaking miracle
Yeah.
that we have this. Like technically, story, narrative, the fact that like this was able to come together is just amazing. I mean, like the software engineering is some of the best in the world, which is kind of funny that you'd think it'd be like in other places, but no, video games for some reason have some of the best technical minds in the world. And it is so hard to do. People don't. I think people understand that it's really hard to do,
Yeah.
but
They don't really know the depth. I mean, heck, I
it,
don't know the depth.
yeah, it's hard to explain. But video games are very, very tough. And luckily, I mean, a lot of people, there's a lot of engines and stuff now that take away some of that abstraction. But if you were to start from like literally raw, it's amazing that these things work, that they work as fast as they do. That you get the frame rates that we do. We get the
Right, in
lighting,
a
like ray
shooter, we have
tracing.
millisecond response time across countries and
Yeah, across the
continents.
world. The
Yeah,
world. You'll have like a 4 second, like maybe 15
4 second.
milliseconds.
Ah!
Like, yeah, 4 milliseconds. Like,
I
everything
mean, yeah,
about it is just a freaking miracle that it works.
yeah.
And I'm guilty of this, but not appreciating that enough and be like, I had lag or something. This motherfucker's
Right.
cheating. It's like, no, it's just I suck. But yeah, I mean, it's a pretty cool world we live in and that we get to experience this. I kind of joked a long time ago that I was like, I'm really glad I was born in between the social apocalypse and when video games were made. So I have this like golden window where I can live in bliss, like ignorant bliss for a while until the world falls apart.
play on our arcade machines until the world blows up around us. Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
positive message.
Yeah, exactly.
No, yeah, it's quite amazing. I mean, you could dedicate your life to just one subject of creation of, cinematography, acting, music, scripting, modeling, art, like any of these things, and you bring that all together just to create like one video game, and that's
Mm-hmm.
it's amazing. And then people do it. The one person will do it. A small team will do it. Like it's just incredible. And the dedication that these developers show is really admirable. And on there with any other artistic creative out there.
Yeah, totally agree. So I was going to talk a little bit about the new Destiny season, but I think maybe we'll leave that for next show.
Oh.
Because we're kind of running out of time, and I'm prone to ranting, and I don't want to. And I want to,
give it a week to simmer.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I should let it simmer because it's only been since Tuesday, and I got to give it a fair shot before I rant about it. So cool. Thank you everybody for listening. So we have that new pixelatedrealms.org/ask. So don't forget, if you have any questions or comments, you want to just bring up something that we should talk about on the show, go to didisay.com, I think it's .org, pixelatedrealms.org/ask, and leave us a note and we'll talk about it next episode. So Thank you for listening. Don't forget to follow or subscribe to be notified when we post new episodes. You can also find us on social media at Pixelated Realms or Pixelated Realms Podcast. It really helps and is the best way to support us. Tyler, do you have any last minute things?
Thanks for listening. Yeah, like you said, give us some comments, give us some topics. Go to that website Alex mentioned, pixelatedrealms.org/ask, and let us know what we got to talk about next, because it's really fun to hear this feedback. And we'll catch you next time.
Thank you, everyone.